Greetings and good evening to all. My name is A. Mahalingam from AHMP India. I take this opportunity, great opportunity, to welcome all the participants and speaker, Dr. V. Kannagasabai sir today. This AHMP is a registered association for healthcare management professional India, formed by a group of pioneers with a core agenda of bringing all healthcare professionals into a common platform for a collaborative commitment towards affordable, accessible, quality healthcare, and to advocate, resolve the needs of all healthcare professionals. And this association is for healthcare professionals like doctors, administrators, allied health professionals, healthcare management, and allied health science program students as well. So this is a program today on Living Will. We will go as per the agenda. About AHMP, I request Ramakrishnan, a treasurer of AHMP India, to briefly mention about AHMP activities. Over to Professor Ramakrishnan. Ramakrishnan sir.
Unmute panna solluங்க.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's a great pleasure for me to share some information about AHMP. As Mr. Mahalingam has stated already, this is an association started by like-minded, passionate, and committed professionals from various walks of healthcare industry. The basic objective being to provide an opportunity, a continuing opportunity for professionals, qualified doctors, hospital administrators, etc., to join us and share their rich experience and the kind of value additions they have brought to the profession with the public, our members, as well as whoever is interested to know about the trends in the healthcare sector. AHMP happens to be a toddler of about 2 years, and in the short span of time, probably due to word of mouth, probably due to the kind of programs we are doing, we're able to get a membership strength of close to 140, 150 as of today. And around 30% of that happens to be life members. The objective before us, we welcome more members so that the association, founded on the basis of strong ethical commitment, transparency, and honesty with public at large, and also take people forward to knowing the current events, the current trends, and what we are, where the healthcare industry is moving, etc. Thanks to Mr. Mahalingam, the president of the association, and his contacts in the healthcare industry, many doctors, many experts in the field, both in the form of medical as well as administrative side, have been highly cooperative with AHMP and come and talk to us and come and address our participants over the last 1.5 to 2 years' time. They have accepted kindly our invitation to come and enrich the knowledge of people who are attending our programs. In spite of the pandemic, we are averaging around one program every 1.5 to 2 months' time. And some 4 months back, we thought, why not create a general awareness program, say about 4 or 5 sessions or free sessions on medical issues. People are interested, many people do not know. We started with program taking you back to the family physician concept, followed by 2, 3 other matters of interest. And today, it is the 4th session on the patient awareness program, where we have the learned, experienced expert, Dr. Kanagasabai. So that's about AHMP, which is waiting to grow to reach a level of about 500 to 600,000 members over a period of time. And it is my earnest request to all of you to spread a word of mouth and speak about the program, share your feelings, your thoughts, etc., so that more members are attracted to this association for the cause of spreading awareness on various medical issues. Thank you so much. Over to Mr. Mahalingam again to take the program forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ramakrishnan, for briefing about our AHMP India. Next, I request Dr. Anuja, Principal, the Sankarnatra Academy Unit of Medical Research Foundation. She is also the Program Director for International ABDO UK. I request Dr. Anuja to briefly introduce our speaker, Dr. V. Kanagasabai sir today. Over to Dr. Anuja.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalingam. And it's my pleasure and honor to be introducing the speaker of the day, Dr. V. Kanagasabai today. Welcome you, sir. Dr. Kanagasabai, he, as we all know, is the Vice Chancellor of the Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. He holds an MBBS, MD, and MBA in Hospital Administration. Formerly the Assistant Professor at Madras Medical College and also the Associate Professor at Chengalpet Medical College. He was the Professor and HOD at Government Mohan Kumaramangalam Medical College, Salem, for 14 years. During this period, he developed the medical college as its Vice Principal, Hostel Warden, Staff Advisor, Library Committee Member, Secretary, Computer Center in charge for 14 long years. He also took over as the Government Mohan Kumaramangalam Medical College as the Dean in charge and also as the Dean of Dharmapuri Medical College. He increased the intake of the MBBS seats to 100 seats, 100 MBBS students for 3 consecutive years. And as the Dean, he started number of postgraduate courses, built a 300-bedded super specialty hospital and the largest government nursing college. He was also the Dean of Government Keel Park Medical College, where he worked towards increase in the annual intake of MBBS seats and also PG medical seats. He was the Dean of Madras Medical College, where he also had very notable accomplishments. He started the BA SLP course and increased the intake of seats in B Pharma, BSc Nursing, MSc Nursing, and various other courses. He conducted 20 different awareness programs, mind you, in a year from 2007 to 2014. He was also the Director of Medical Education and he digitalized the Board of Nursing. In 2014, he joined as the Registrar of Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. And in 2017, he took over as the Vice Chancellor. And his awards are numerous. He was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu in 2013. He also received the Media Guild Award, the Lifetime Achievement Award for Medical Services from His Excellency, the Governor of Tamil Nadu. He was adjudged the Best Medical Teacher Award in 2010 by the Indian Medical Association. He was also the Best Medical Administrator in 2011, honored on Doctors' Day by the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University. And he was awarded the Sadhanai Chemmal Award by the Annai Kasturiba Welfare Association in 2011. To say his CV is impressive would be the understatement of the year. We are really proud and honored to have you among our midst, sir. Welcome you. Over to you, sir. The platform is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Anuja, for the nice introduction about our speaker. Now over to Dr. V. Kanagasabai sir for his presentation.
Thank you, dear President, Mr. Mahalingam, dear General Secretary Ratnam, and dear treasurer, Professor Ramakrishnan, and the person who has introduced me, Dr. Anuja R. Singh, for giving my biodata in detail, and other office bearers and members of this Association for Healthcare Management Professionals. Good evening to one and all. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Usually, when a doctor talks, usually we expect that doctor will talk about some improvement in the health condition or mental health or physical health, or how to take care of your heart, how to take care of your brain, how to take care of your liver, and so on and so forth. Today, I'm talking on a totally a different topic, a relatively new topic called as a living will. Many of you would have come across will. We write about our movable and immovable property before our death. We bequeath it to our children, our wife, and so on and so forth. This is living will is part of the medical issue. And the other technical word for this topic is advanced medical directive. So let me go to the presentation. Kindly permit me to share the presentation.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I'm not able to see the. Are you able to see the screen, please?
Yes, sir. Yeah. No.
Palliative care, are not able to see it.
Just 1 second.
Are you able to see it or not? Hello.
Yes, sir. Just 1 second.
No, sir, we are yet to see it.
Otherwise, I'll just go from the beginning. That's why. Okay, then.
We are able to see your face, sir. Yeah.
You're able to see it.
Yeah. But
Palliative care.
your presentation yet to see.
Oh, presentation is not visible.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Then I'll just go back and come again. Kindly bear a few minutes.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. We're able to see the PPT now.
Yes.
Doctor?
Yeah, PPT is visible.
So we are able to see the presentation, sir.
Yes, sir. Very
Yes.
well, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir. PPT is visible. Sir, your PPT is visible, but we are not able to hearing properly.
No, there is no audio at all from Dr. Kanagasabay.
I've just informed him, sir. I think he'll be coming.
Okay, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Now you are audible, sir.
I don't know what happened. The video is not visible. At least audible. It's audible. I'll just go from beginning then.
Okay, sir.
Palliative care, sir. So
Yes,
now
sir.
it's audible, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
it's audible, sir.
You are audible as well as the PPT also very clear, sir.
Okay, sir. Palliative care. This palliative care is a separate specialty under medicine. We know there are more than 30 branches under medicine. After MBBS, we go a PG course. So there is a MD course in palliative care. There are about 560 medical colleges in the country. Only 3 medical colleges offer a MD course in palliative care. So it's upcoming specialty. So in the palliative care subject, there is one topic called as Advanced Medical Directive. The common word is living will. So in India, importance is given. Any issue you talk, we classify it as right or wrong, or good or sin. And that is also based on the person's level of education, his wealth, social standing, his religion, his community, his region, where is he coming from, North India or West India or South India. Based on these issues, we classify any issue as right or wrong. We don't go into the crux of the issue. Actually, we are not giving importance to personal autonomy. Individuals' autonomy is not given due importance in our society. So importance of personal autonomy came to limelight after the 3 landmark judgments from the Supreme Court of India between 2017 and 18. Between 2017 and 18, 3 judgments came from the Apex Court, which gave importance to personal autonomy. So in the Indian Constitution, all of you are aware that Indian Constitution came into existence from 1950, January 26. So from 1950, we have the Indian Constitution is there. We are a republic country. So in the Constitution, Article 21 says, right to life. What is right to life? I have the right to determine my own future. What right to life says is, I have the right to determine my own future, to accept or decline any therapy. See, you can accept therapy or you can decline therapy. See, some of us, we go to Ayurveda medicine, Siddha medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, magnetotherapy, and so on and so forth. So we can't force somebody, you go to modern medicine. So that is given in the Constitution. The last thing is to decide who decides for me. To decide who decides for me is when the end stage of our life, when we become semi-conscious or unconscious, we can't decide. So at that time, somebody has to decide for us. Maybe our spouse, maybe our children, maybe our sibling. So this is given in the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, right to life. So next slide, we are going to the next slide.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not able to move further. Yes. So quality of death index. So all of you to come out past a quality of health index. In health index, Kerala stays number 1. And Tamil Nadu is closely with Kerala. Goa is also one of the state with high health index value. There is one term called as a death index. When you're dying, what is the quality of dying is there. So among the 180 countries surveyed in the world, we are standing in the 166th position. Such a bad shape. But India is leading in many fields. India leads the many countries in case of communication. We are leading. Number of cell phones per individual we are having. India is having the largest number of cell phone connectivity and number of people having cell phones. So in communication, we are one of the leading countries. In space research, we are also competing with the West. We are also sending spaceships to Moon, to Mars, etc. Coming to medical technology, all of you are in the medical field. So you know that there is a medical tourism is there. People from the West come to India for taking treatment. So we are leading in medical field also. But when it comes to death, we are in the 166th position out of the 180 countries. So United Kingdom is in the first place, Australia is in the second place, and New Zealand is in the third place. So Indian reality, most people like to die at home. When people talk, people say when they are old age, I like to die at home without being bedridden and without troubling the family members. Everybody wants to die instantly, suddenly, without pain, without suffering, without we suffering, without the person dying suffering, or the surrounding people, the spouse or the children or the sibling or the friends, they should not suffer because of us. But in reality, 70 to 80% end up dying in hospitals. Earlier, only in the cities people were going to the hospitals. Then the town people in the town went to the hospitals. Now, even in rural area, even when the person is about to die, he is being taken to a hospital, to an intensive care unit. So in this, we are seeing 4 graphs. Among people who die after 50 years, we are talking about only people who are dying after the age of 50 years. They are classified into 4 different groups. On the left-hand corner, you see on the top, sudden death. See here, the function is good. Suddenly they are functioning, sudden death happens. So this is 10% of the people have only sudden death. This is like massive heart attack, massive myocardial infarction, or accidents, fatal accidents. So only 10% people die like this. Second stage is terminal illness. Terminal illness. About 20% have this type of death. This is called as waterfall trajectory death. Waterfall trajectory. Like a waterfall, the function is good, then they diagnose, like example being cancer. Once they diagnose, there is a gradual fall, decline, and death happens. Like a waterfall, there is a gradual decline. Third group is organ failure. Again, 20% have this organ failure. It is called a looping downward trajectory. Examples being because of non-communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension, obesity, people die of renal failure, heart failure, liver failure. So these are examples of organ failure. See, when the function is good, they become sick and become some failure is there. They go to ICU, come back a little bit. Their function is not as good as the previous level. Again, second attack, function is reduced. Again, third attack, ultimately they die. Gradually, the function declines, downward declining looping downward trajectory. The fourth group is about 50% of the people come under this group. This group is above 70 to 80 years. So already the function is low, gradual declining in the function and death. This is called as a downward dwindling trajectory. Example being dementia or Parkinsonism. The neurological diseases like dementia and Parkinsonism. So from the graph you see only 10% people die suddenly without notice. Even the patient who is dying will not know that he is dying. His relatives and friends will not know he is going to die. Remaining 90% of the people, they know death is predictable. They are foreseen some weeks or months before they occur. When the patient is sick, patient himself knows that his health is declining and he is going to die. His relatives and friends, they know that he is gradually sinking. In India, precedence is given to curing the illness and rather than managing the patients and their pain. They want to treat the disease. Even at the last minute, they want to treat the disease. People are not ready to accept death. For everybody who is born, he is going to die. But we are not able to accept death. Problems limiting us from dying well. So what are the problems limiting us from dying well? We'll see those problems. Because we are not willing to talk about death. See, we don't talk about death. If we talk about death, we say, oh, it's wrong signal. Even at 80 years, if we talk about death, say, don't talk like this. This is a bad omen. Romba tappu. So we have that culture not to talk about death. Since we don't talk about death, we lose 2 opportunities. First opportunity is expressing the last wish. Even a death convict, when he's going to be hanged, he's been asked, what is your last wish? And he tells his last wish, and that is being performed. But for us, after such a long career of more than 50 to 60 years of life, we have done so much we have done for the society, done for the family, but we may not be able to express the last wish. But in olden days, you remember our grandfather days, when the person is dying, he'll be dying in his home, surrounded by relatives, and he will express his last wish. He'll ask, this child has to marry this child. He'll tell his granddaughter should marry the grandson. His daughter's son should be married by son's daughter. That way they'll get some promise and all before dying. I suppose you remember our grandfather days, some 50, 60 years back, before death, they used to tell. Otherwise they'll tell, you should marry this person. You give a promise to me. He'll take a promise before his death. That is the last wishes. But nowadays we don't have that last wish. Second is, we lose the opportunity for life reviews. That is emotional settling of accounts. What is this emotional settling of accounts? In most of our families, we have some difference of opinion between relatives, between friends. We may be close relatives, we may be close friends, but in a small minor issue, we have difference of opinion and we fight. We don't attend their marriages, we don't go to their functions, we don't talk to them for a minor issue, and that too for number of years, decades, 2 decades, 3 decades, like India, Pakistan. Among the relatives, among the friends, close friends, we develop an antagonistic approach. So if you are going to die, if you know you are going to die and you talk about death, then you can call those people, the relatives, call the friends with whom you have difference of opinion, tell them, I am going to die now. At least forget what has happened before. Whether we have done a mistake or he has done a mistake, that is immaterial. Ultimately, we are all close relatives, close friends. So the mistake should be forgotten. You forgive and forget. Whoever does then that's a mistake, and settle the accounts and talk to them freely, at least before death. Let us share some pleasant memories of the past, and in a happy moment, let the person die. That is not possible now because we don't talk about death. Since we don't talk about death, the default option takes place. What is the default option? To continue until the bitter end. Away from family, dying in the intensive care unit, alone and suffering. So all of you are related to medical field. I need not explain about the picture, but still anyway, for sake of completion, I will explain about the picture. The picture you see on the left side is in an ICU setup, intensive care unit. All of you know, the patient is in the intensive care unit. He's been given IV line is being given to him. Then through the nasal rice tube, food is given through a rice tube, nasal feeding, and the oxygen is given through a intubation. He's been intubated and oxygen is given through his trachea. He's been connected to chest leads and has been connected to the cardiac monitor that is making the beep beep sounds. The pulse oximeter is involved. This pulse oximeter is being attached. And since the patient is in a delirium state, in a semi-conscious state, he is restless. He will remove the tubes from his body. They may put a urinary catheter also for passing urine. The urine bag will be connected. So since he is restless, he may remove these tubes from the nose, from the urinary bladder. He may pull out the tubes. So to prevent it, his hands are being tied to the cot. Both his hands are tied to the cot. So this is a state of affairs of even a big VVIP or a very highly educated person or a very kind person in his last day. He is in the ICU. Ultimately, he dies and the body is handed over to the relatives. The relatives are nowhere here close by. He is hearing the sounds of doctors, nurses' voices, shouting at each other for drugs, for the treatment procedures, treatment protocols. Their noise only is able to hear. On the right side, the patient is in his hometown, in his own home, in his own bed. He is being held by hand. His hand is being held by the close relatives. Somebody close to by is reading from the scriptures based on their faith of religion, either from Bhagavad Gita or from Quran or from Bible, depending on their faith. Divine music will be played. He is in a known surrounding. surrounded by all kith and kin. You would have remembered 50 years back when we were small kids, when our grandfather was very sick, they will give telegram to the relatives. All the relatives from the town will come to the village and they will talk to the dying person. They'll introduce their children to the grandfather. Grandfather also will recollect how he was taking care of the children, how they took them to the schools. The past memories will be shared between both of them. Even the grandchild will tell good things about the grandfather, and the grandfather will also tell good things about his children and grandchildren. In a pleasant atmosphere, everybody knows he's dying. They'll be waiting for his death, and ultimately he will die. Saying goodbye to death. This is one type of death. So the choice is ours. So planning for a quality death. How to plan for a quality death? Where, how, and whose presence. Good death involves knowing when death is coming. We should be able to know when death is coming and having the time to say goodbye, to be able to live when it's time to go, to be able to live when it's time to go, not to have life prolonged pointlessly, not to have life prolonged pointlessly. Destination cannot be changed. Everybody was born has to die one day. So destination cannot be changed. But journey can be decided. So in our life, we plan everything. What school you should study, what college you should study, what course you should study, where you should go for a job, where to build a house, what car you should buy. All these things we plan in our life. But our last journey, we plan for a vacation and all. But for a last journey, we don't plan. It needs you to be aware and take charge. For what purpose? To die in dignity. See, when we are alive, we are dignified. But even in death, we should be dignified. In the company of loved ones, in a privacy. So your dignity has to be maintained, your privacy has to be maintained, and you should be in the company of loved ones. You see in Corona, you have seen in the TV news, patients have been taken by ambulances. In the hospital, there was no beds. So patients were in the ambulance. Oxygen was given in the ambulance. Once oxygen cylinder got exhausted, patient died. You know, there is no other alternative. I'm not blaming somebody. But even that, at that particular time also, the technicians in the ambulance, they go and give cardiac massage to the patient. Patient is corona positive, acutely ill. He is being taken in an ambulance with oxygen. Due to shortage of oxygen, he is died. After death, what's the use of cardiac massage? Because we are not trained. Doctors, I'm including me, I'm telling, I'm not blaming somebody. Including me, I am in a very senior position. We have not trained people how to treat a person. Routinely those days, after death, you give a cardiac massage, we somehow try to revive. At least relatives should know that we are trying our level best to retrieve the person from the jaws of the death. But is it necessary? We should think. How to achieve quality death? How to achieve quality death? Pain relief and other symptom control. Of course, you can't suffer with pain. Pain control should be given. Pain should be treated. Your vomiting, your cough, your giddiness, your diarrhea, constipation, those things should be treated. We are not only treating the primary disease for prolonging the life, but symptomatic relief, you have to give 100% symptomatic, peaceful, painless life at the end stage. Access to spiritual, emotional support, and hospice care. All of you know hospice care is only terminal care, symptomatic care. In the hospice care, we are not treating the disease. We are giving only symptomatic relief. Necessary food is given, fluids is given, oxygen is given, pain relief is given. The choice of being at home or at the hospital. You can be at home or even in the hospital also as outpatient treatment or as an inpatient also. Inpatient also you can be in a general ward or in a room because there the relatives will be permitted. We are telling not only in the ICU, in intensive care unit only, the relative is not permitted. You can't see the patient, you can't talk to the patient. That is of course for sepsis reason. Aseptic precaution has to be maintained. So the visitors are not allowed inside the intensive care unit. And as all of you are aware, Intensive care concept has come into the world even in states from 1950s only. 1950s only, intensive care concept has come even in states. And India probably intensive care unit has come 40 years back. For the past 40 years and so only, we are having this intensive care. Before that, patient will be either in the room or in the general ward, either in the private hospital or in a government hospital, where relatives can go and talk to him at the time of death. You can give specific instructions like no intensive care unit, no interventions, or DNR. Do not resuscitate. Once death is there, no need to resuscitate again. If you can speak coherently, you decide your choices and decisions will be followed. When we are conscious, we can tell this treatment, this doctor, this hospital, everything. That will be followed. But can you decide right till the end? Because close to the end, we become semi-conscious, mental clouding will be there, confusion will be there. We can't tell whether today is evening or morning, whether it is summer or winter. We can't even recognize our relatives, close relatives at the end stage. So at that time, how will you decide? So what suffering happens when there is nobody willing to make decisions? So now only we are going into the actual topic of living will. So living will is an important document which can go a long way in ensuring that we have some amount of control over the way we die and how we die. Living will is an important document that we have a control over the way we die and how we die. Living will. So living will involves declaration by the individual of sound mind. You know, for all purposes, any document, we should be of sound mind, clearly stating their wishes for the end of their life. Clearly stating their wishes for the end of their life. And you should nominate 3 members. They are called as healthcare power of attorney or surrogate decision maker. These 3 members can't act as a team. There is only one person, the first person, order of priority. The most important person or reliable person, who is a dependable person, who is younger to you, who is healthier than you, who is in close proximity to you, who will come and attend on you when you are sick, has to be the first nominee. In case that first nominee is out of station or he is sick, he is not able to come, we go for the second healthcare power of attorney. Even if second person is not available, we go to the third. That's the reason we have to nominate 3 healthcare power of attorney who is younger to us, healthier than us, and who is will be close, accessible to us, and who will respect our will, in letter and spirit. So this is the most important part of this presentation. You should consult and convince. We should consult and convince whom? The family doctor. Earlier it was only family doctor. Now all of you know, each person is a diabetologist consultant, he has a cardiologist consultant, nephrologist consultant. Many consultants are being there for a single patient. So all the doctors has to be consulted and also convinced about the living will. The family members, the spouse, the siblings, the children, and close relatives and friends, all of them should be convinced. The caregivers, the physiotherapists, healthcare power of attorney. I told you already, 3 healthcare power. All of them has to be consulted and convinced and to say, see, I have lived a full life, 60 years, 70 years. Now the doctor is telling the terminal disease. At the end of the stage only we are using this living will. When the doctor says nothing can be done, again your heart has failed. What's the purpose in going to ICU, suffering? So I don't want to suffer further. I want to die dignified. So don't take me to ICU. And you should convince these people. Document comes into force when all agree. This all of them has to agree. Now, if a single person does not agree, it will lead to problems only. So all of them unanimously, they should agree. Signed by the individual in the presence of witness. And the signed by 2 witnesses. Your signature must be in the presence of witness and 2 witnesses has to sign it. Make multiple copies. Usually you tend to forget and keep the copy somewhere. So make multiple Xerox copies, place in the medical record, in a visible place in the house, sticky note on the fridge மேல ஒட்டி வச்சிடலாம், டக்குன்னு எடுக்கிறதுக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கும். Produce during even a minor medical procedure, you produce this living will copy. Give it to the siblings, give it to the children, give it to the spouse, give it to close friends. Let them also have a copy so that they will not forget it. Our people have a short-term memory when it comes to other people's work, so they forget it. So give a copy also, they'll remember. Cancelling the living will. What if suddenly we change our mind? See, man always changes. Everything is changing except change in the world. So if you want to change, what happens? Living will and power of attorney can be revoked instantly and orally. Orally sunave we can change it. It is null and void and instantly. Significance of living will. It's common man's protection against intensive care torture. About 55 million Indians are driven below poverty line under this massive and unnecessary healthcare expenses every year. This yearly phenomenon. I have not put year there. Every year, 55 million people are pushed below poverty line. Even the middle class people are pushed to below poverty line, and the next generation is suffering the lack of money. So patient is also dying, money is also being spent, and suffering is also there. And moreover, like India, like country, you know, the health resources are limited. So when the old and terminally diseased people occupy the ICU, young people cannot be, they don't get a place in intensive care, who are young and productive. If they have sudden heart attack, snake bite, sudden diseases where they require intensive care, they may not get a place. And doctors and nurses and other medical workers are already overloaded. You know, in Corona, we have seen how they have been overloaded. To avoid all these things, to reduce the loss of national resources, to reduce the income of the family, to reduce the suffering of the individual, to maintain the dignity and privacy of the individual, we can execute living will. So now I am giving the copies of the living will. This is a 3-page copy. It's there. The first page contains only your name of the person who is giving it, his date of birth, his ID number, like voter ID number or Aadhaar card number for identification and for authentication only, their address, date and place. This will give what are the treatments you can avoid, is given here. And if you want, you can add also. What treatment you don't want, you can add handwritten. Second page, the 3 power of attorney people, their name, signature, their date of birth, the ID number, email, those things. Any address, those details are given in the second page. And here we have to give the signature with the date and the place. The third page, witness. Witness, 2 witnesses, their name, address, and signature. By rule book, this has to be countersigned by first-class magistrate as per rule book. But I have undergone a training in palliative care medicine in Trivandrum Institute of Palliative Medicine. It is a WHO recognized center. So in that center, Professor Rajagopal is the chief person of the center. He has informed all the doctors that you did not get the signature from the first-class magistrate, because that is not possible at all to meet a first-class magistrate and get a signature. When all the relatives and friends agree, the healthcare power of attorney agree, and they sign in the presence of 2 witnesses, they sign, it will hold good. And even the Supreme Court nowadays in 2018, they have come out with a case that living will can be executed. And when a patient is in a very bad shape, the doctors can also tell them, if they want, they can take the patient back home. That is being told. And this, you have to create awareness so that all of them know about it. That's the reason I have given this talk. I think with this, I'll stop the presentation. That's all. Thank you very much. I am ready for clarifying your questions. If I don't know, I'll let you know later. If I know, I'll let you know the answers for your queries and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, wonderful session, sir. Very wonderful session.
Thank you.
Any questions from our participants?
Any doubts? If at all, any doubts, please ask me, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, good evening, sir. I'm Padmapriya here.
Yes, doctor.
In the first slide, you said something about death index.
Yeah.
Can I understand more on that? What is meant by a death index?
Yeah, death index is last stage of your death. When you are going through a terminal illness during the last stage of your life, how many hospitals are available to take care of you, the number of hospitals, the cost factor involved in the terminal stage, treatment of the terminal stage, the environment which is available. Based on these things only, death index is being evaluated.
So you mean to say that the facilities available in India is not adequate for a person who is nearing death?
Yeah, nearing death is like hospice care now. See, suppose a cancer patient is there, we are giving treatment, we are giving chemotherapy, we are giving radiotherapy, we are giving surgery. And ultimately there is one stage when doctors tell they can't survive further. All the treatment has been done. Whatever is there, we have done. Now only God has to save him. Something like that, they tell, no, the end stage. So end stage care hospitals, we don't have much hospitals. We have very good hospitals for treating the patients and bringing them alive. But end stage, where only symptomatic relief is given. Suppose for a cancer patient, he'll suffer with acute pain. So for giving pain, morphine is given. Morphine tablets are given. Nowadays, it's only slowly picking up.
Okay.
Because morphine, everybody feels morphine is a highly addictive drug. It will produce physical addiction. So earlier, before 2017 or 18, each state had different narcotics policy law. The law of narcotics drugs was different for different states. The central had a different law. Now, recently, for the past 3 years only, they have made a uniform law, central law, where all the states agree to it. So that morphine was sometimes where the procuring state has one set of rules and the using state has different set of rules, different licenses. So you can't get the drugs also. By the time you get the drug, you have license in one state, the other state license will expire. These are the issues earlier. Now it is being settled. The death index is mainly because terminal illness, you should give some available of hospitals where hospice care is given. So symptomatic relief is given.
Those type of hospitals are not available. That's why we are in 166 position.
Yeah, those hospitals are not available, and the cost also. If at all they are available, they are expensive. It should be affordable to our patients. And our patients also, they don't know that they don't go to this type of treatment. If you don't undergo, no, we somehow want to go to a big hospital, somehow revive again. Somehow go to renal transplant, somehow take liver transplant, or somehow take heart transplant. Even at 80 years or 90 years, we want them to be alive and come back. Even the relatives, kith and kin, want their grandparents to come back to life even after 80, 90. We don't have that mentality of enough is enough. It's time to go.
Yeah.
So once, if you're healthy, fine. If you're hale and healthy, you're active, you can be even 100 plus, you can carry on. When you're sick, when your parameters are coming down gradually over the years, and you know you're sick, then you should be able to accept it.
Yeah, true. Thank you,
I hope I
doctor.
have answered your question. I hope
yes, doctor, very much. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
I'd like to say greetings from South Africa, and I want to say thank you very much for the presentation. I think COVID has taught us something. He taught us that you can't be certain about life and you have to be prepared for anything. And I think you brought a very important ethical dimension to the whole debate, you know, the right to life, the right to care. And even our Indians here in South Africa, because we have 1.5 million Indians, and if you have to do a quick survey, they'll all tell you, I want to die at home in the comfort of my family. And I think it's something universal because Indians feel that connection to their family. So I'd like to say thank you so much. I enjoyed the presentation. It's almost 2:30 here. I have another meeting. And thank you very much for inviting me. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, doctor. Good luck.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All the best.
There is one question in the chat box. How does the living will relate to euthanasia? Euthanasia is not.
Yes, sir.
Still not legal in India.
Correct. Euthanasia, I see, is active killing. You give a drug and kill a person. That is euthanasia. And euthanasia is only allowed, permitted in certain countries, not in majority of countries, including India. Euthanasia is illegal. Okay, in this condition, living will, we are not giving any drug to kill a person. We don't give a drug for prolonging the life. You can give food, you can give water, you can give symptom relief. For pain, you give some drug. For giddiness, you give some drugs. For cough, you give the drugs. For diarrhea, you give the drugs. For constipation, you give the drugs. That way. But not for the cancer, not for the myocardium, strengthening of the myocardium, or strengthening of the lungs, or strengthening of the liver. We don't give the drugs. So that's a difference between euthanasia and the living will. Euthanasia, we actually give some drug. In crude words, it is poison. In crude words, it is poison to the patient so that he dies off. Here in living will, we are not doing anything active. We are withholding active treatment because it is not responding. He is not responding to treatment. So we give only symptomatic relief in a general ward or a room, not in intensive care ward with the intubation, with the nasal tube feeding, with the dialysis, and so on and so forth. I suppose I've answered the question. Is there any doubts? Please ask me, please.
Yes, thank you. You answered it really clearly. I
Thank
have
you.
one more
Thank you.
question. I work a lot with palliative care and end-stage patients.
Mm.
So one question I had was,
Yes.
all this on paper is very good, having a living will, etc.
Mm.
But when the patient is actually dying and the family wants to stop the medication and treatment, on the ground, what doctor says, if that is a case, it is not our responsibility anymore. You are responsible for everything, including giving a death certificate.
No, death certificate doctor has to give. Correct, doctor. I fully agree with you. So it is nice on the paper. Any issue, initially it says number of teething problems. Any issue, any new problems we are facing, we'll have some problems only. I do agree with you, fully agree with you. That's the reason I told you now in my presentation, we have to convince, we have to consult and convince everyone, including the spouse, including the children, including siblings, including close friends, because these are the people who are going to come. And the doctors, treating doctors, physiotherapists, caregivers, everybody in the team, nurses, everybody in the team has to be consulted. And the doctors, they should be made understandable. Only in 2019, Medical Council of India has introduced palliative care in a very small portion in MBBS curriculum. Am I audible, ma'am? In 2019 only, palliative care has been introduced. The word palliative care has been introduced into Medical Council of syllabus or curriculum in 2019 only 2 years back. So it's gradually, it's upcoming subject, and we have to change. Any new subject, we have opposition, some teething problems will be there. The main purpose of this presentation is only to create awareness. Now we can think, everybody has adequate thinking capacity, they have rationalism, so they can think and decide. It's only not everybody should follow it. This one type is available. So what is the pros and cons we can discuss, and whoever has a same wavelength, we can execute it also. Execution is the last step. And of course, the doctors initially they may object, but doctors has also to be sensitized about this issue. And as all of you know, doctors patient ratio is very less. So the number of ICU beds, number of doctors serving the patients is very less. In COVID, we have seen how much doctors were suffering, how much the patients were suffering. So at least these cases, terminally ill case, and which can't be revived. If these people don't give a burden to the doctors and the government, the infrastructure will not be loaded, no?
Yeah, true.
This infrastructure can be concentrated towards younger individuals below 60. Those people can maybe even better treatment, better care, more time concentration can be there, more resources can be pumped in for the younger person to have a longer life. That's
Right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And the doctor has to give the death certificate. See, once a patient is died, the death happens means the doctor is bound to give. That is only ethical and moral grounds on the doctor to examine and see the patient is died. The nature of death and all is not doctor's role. Nature of death is going to be somebody else who is going to investigate. If there is any suspicious in the death, they are going to investigate. But the doctor's role is whether he is alive or dead. Death means he has to give it as dead.
Right. I think the doctors have to be sensitized a lot to this.
No, sure. Everybody, all walks of life has to be sensitized simultaneously.
Right. Thank you.
I've been talking to IMAs, Indian Medical Associations of different branches. I've been talking. Of course, the response is not great, but still, to a certain extent, people do agree. And any new topic, all of them will not readily jump in and agree.
Right.
It takes time to sink into our, we are for so many years we have been in one mode. Suddenly you ask them to change a mode. It takes some time.
Very true.
We should be patient.
Are you all interacting with NABH?
Yeah. No, I am not. No, I'm not.
Maybe that would be a good idea because from what I have seen, I work as a clinical psychologist. I'm based in Mumbai, and I've been working for the last 2 decades with a lot of palliative care and death with HIV, AIDS, cancer, tuberculosis, renal failure, a lot of medical counseling. And a bulk of the opposition has not come from the family. It's come from the doctors. They say, no, we will try this. We will try this. We are like, no, switch to palliative chemo. Do not give regular chemo. Do not give radiation. Do not try any other form of dialysis. Let the patient go. But
I fully agree with you. Doctors, they have to be sensitized because they are in the old school of thought itself. And they say doctor think that we should somehow save the life of the patient. This is old school of thought, because we have studied medicine. Why we have studied medicine? Not to allow the patient to die on his own. See, the parents have educated a particular doctor, and the society has spent so much money on the doctor. The institution has spent so much money on the doctor. Doctor has put so much hard work. The thing is, they think that somehow, even at 90 years, you should save the patient. So that one thing is, he is getting the satisfaction of serving the individual and saving the life. Number 2 is getting money also. 3 is getting name also. So these are the issues. So slowly the doctors has to be sensitized. And I have been talking in various Indian Medical Association branches also. Of course, all of them are not agreeing. Slowly, it takes time, new concept. Even clinical psychologists, the importance of clinical psychologists is very poor in our country.
Very true.
Very poor. Number of patients having mental affliction, they say. I was told by one of the psychiatrists, by 2030, all of us will have more than one psychiatric diseases. This was told to me in 2006. I tried to introduce psychiatry in a bigger way in MBBS curriculum in 94, but miserably failed because people don't give importance even to psychiatry, leave alone psychology. Psychiatry is a part of medical subject, but still they don't give importance to psychiatry, unfortunately.
Lot of social stigma against it.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I should really thank you.
We are happy to inform you, sir, and this topic on pain management and palliative care advances. And we also conducted one session early in 2019, and this is the second program. And definitely from our association also will take care of this aspect, and we will arrange a lot of program with you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
This knowledge. Thank you, sir. And any other questions? Ramakrishnan, sir?
Yes, sir.
Can you conclude this session with your vote of thanks?
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good evening once again. I would say that this has been one of the most enlightening, informative, and a session with a great deal of clarity. And Dr. Kanagasabai's subject is something which is not discussed very often. As he very rightly said, that we are so much worried, all the time is spent on matters of life, mundane things, and also to buy things, acquire wealth, acquire fame, acquire prestige, etc., etc. Planning for death is given to only very few people, where this kind of insightful lecture and the presentation that Dr. Kanagasabay made is a great eye-opener, as somebody has put in the chat box. And this is something which we don't think. As I said, we don't even talk about it. Jatapati Paishana, also, please don't talk, as he very rightly pointed out. But then, as every aspect of life, we do a little bit of planning. The wife does some planning, the husband does some planning, the children is planning, or you are planning for something else, you are planning for somebody else, all that you are doing. But we don't plan for death in the real sense of the term. And this is a kind of an awareness that I think has got to be spread over a large population, because many of us not only not plan it, We also do not want to, understand the importance of planning for death. That way, this is a great learning experience, Dr. Kanagasabai, a subject which is not often discussed at all, like the psychiatry that you mentioned. We don't. We are somehow, we have got an anathema towards psychology and psychiatric medicine. So somebody is not behaving the way he was behaving. He or she was not behaving. Now, the people with whom she is interacting or he is interacting, we know that there is something wrong. But you try and tell that person, you go for a psychiatric counseling. You need a psychiatric treatment. That's the last you will hear from her or him. They shy away from psychiatry. That is one area where a lot more awareness needs to be built up. Thanks a lot, Dr. Kanagasabai. It has been one of the most informative, exhaustive information on a most critical matter that affects all human beings. Unfortunately, the least amount of care and planning is done in that particular area. Great, Dr. Kanagasabai. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
On behalf of AHMP, it's a formality because everybody feels so grateful and so thankful to you. Giving a formal vote of thanks becomes only a formality. But to conclude the program, on behalf of AHMP, the President, the Secretary, and all the executive members, and also the light members and ordinary members, it is a great thanks to you, Dr. Kanagasabai. It has been a wonderful exposition of a subject which we were not aware of or we are not wanting to be aware of. Thanks a lot once again. And thank all the participants for participating in this evening function. Thank you, one and all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kanagasabai, sir,
Thank you,
and
sir.
all other team members. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kanagabai, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rathan, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.